think people assume that, like, I got a leg up. And I think in some ways I did, because when my agents called up when I hadn't done any work yet, and they said to a casting director, I have a young actress here and she's Elia Kazan's granddaughter, I think they're more willing to see me than if they just say, we've got an actress here and she's just out of Yale undergrad and she's good, you know? So I definitely think it, like, cracked open the door a tiny bit, but no more than that. No one's going to give you a job based on that. I mean, like, I wish it was that easy. It's not. There's an opportunity for people who feel slighted in their own lives to look at me and just say, well, that's nepotism. It's a way of making themselves feel better. It's not, I don't really think it has anything to do with me.
Do you want to go home?
Yeah.
Me.
Okay.
I was given plays to read and movies to watch, and anytime I put pen to paper, it was like, this is extraordinary. And anytime I did like a skit at home, it was like, that was amazing. And they would talk to me about acting and anything that I was interested in, and that's where I have like a real gratitude to my parents. I mean, I think that my family is like, above all, it's a family of artists, and I'm doing my artistic work, so I feel like I'm carrying the torch, as it were. But whether I feel more pressure, I think it would be much worse if they were actors.
You must be Stanley. I'm Blanche.
Oh, your step sister.
Yes.
Oh, hi.
I didn't really know my grandpa was famous when I was a little girl. It really just wasn't talked about. There were actors around and people, but you have to understand that it seemed so normal because of they never knew anything else. And no one ever said, like, he was a filmmaker, or you could tell he was a powerful person because of the way people treated him. But it really wasn't a reality for me until I was like in middle school, and a teacher asked me if I was related to him, and I was very confused by it and kind of talked to my parents about it. And then they showed me some of his films, and none of it seemed out of the ordinary until the whole brouhaha happened over his honorary Oscar. I was like 14 or 15, and it was just deeply upsetting to me because at that point my grandpa had been very sick just a couple years before, and he had almost died, and he was not well. It was the last trip he made out to the West Coast, and I could tell that, you know, he just seemed so old and fragile, and that people were crucifying him in this way seemed so hypocritical to me. Number one, it had nothing to do with the man that was on stage. I think it has nothing to do with the artist. I truly believe that politics and art are separate things unless you put them together. If you're going to make a documentary about politics, if you're going to make a movie that's political or a play that's political, that's one thing. But if, as he did, if you keep the two things separate, then why put them together?
So I'm pleased to say what's best about them. They're damn good to work with.
No one really asked me about it because, you know, he's gone now and people are all reverent now that he's gone. But when I was sitting in the audience at the Oscars that day and watching people not stand or sit on their hands, I just thought, like 20 years ago, 30 years ago, you would have killed to have been in one of his movies. But now, now that he's not making movies anymore, and now that you have the 2020 vision of hindsight, you can all sit there and judge. I think a lot of people should really think twice about what they would have done in the same situation. An artist needs to work. It was a terrible time in American history, but it wasn't my grandpa's fault that it was that particular time. If you're going to blame someone, blame McCarthy, you know, blame anyone who's responsible for the Red Scare. I just think to put an artist in that position in the first place is a terrible thing. To be in that position and to have to do something is also terrible. And if he hadn't named names, we wouldn't have most of his movies. And I know for the people whose families were hurt that that's a terrible bargain. But there are a lot of terrible bargains that have been struck in the name of art.